Welcome back to the Mocktown Podcast.
What up?
Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, all the good things. This is a double special week. We got the double drop, and this is episode 2 of the week.
And who are we?
Who are we? We are Saxon and my beautiful co-host, Declan.
Hello.
And we're here to talk about One Piece, baby.
This is the goddamn Mocktown Podcast.
Mocktown Podcast. We're in the pub. We chatting One Piece. We're talking 11:45 and just some other, like Elbaph chat and One Piece chat throughout the hour.
Oh, this arc has been so giant.
It's been enormous. Characters, big. Story, big. Island, big. Hearts, bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we love it.
100%.
We love it. Elbaph is, we love an arc that's been getting built since pre-time skip. This is one of the arcs that I'm sure when Oda was prepping the story, I'm sure he went Little Garden, a couple others.
Big Garden.
Big Garden. Elbaph. Fable backwards.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why it's half the time it's Romanized. Well, it was Romanized as Elbaf, but it's translated as Elbaph. But either way, sound-wise, flip it around, Fable.
Oh,
and obviously that makes a lot of sense with the connections to Norse mythology and fables, European fables as a whole.
I'm not peeing.
I said Euro.
Yeah.
There we are. Comedy gold. Yeah. Well, we had a setup chapter last week.
Yep.
And I think this was the conclusion of the setup. This was another setup chapter.
Saying this chapter was the setup chapter.
This chapter was again the setup, at least the setup for conflict. For the fight, at least the first fight of Elbaph.
You heard it here first. Saxon saying next chapter there's a fight.
Yes, and we'll get into...
If they've risen to attack him in the comments.
I could be wrong, and if you do, be mean to me. We've got 2 weeks to find out.
As long as you like, subscribe, comment. Do you favourite YouTube?
You can favourite videos. I don't know. It'd be weird if you did. It doesn't really do anything for us, and I don't think this is something you're going to come back to a ton. I would say put it on repeat and just watch it silently. Ooh. So our numbers look great.
Yes.
And if you get to the end, make sure to click through for another video because that's great for analytics apparently. Yes. I don't know why, but it's good for them apparently.
Yes.
But yeah, no, we are introduced to this chapter. We got a little color spread. The whole crew watching TVs of Gear 5 Luffy.
11:45.
11:15. It says on the clock.
The chapter's 11:45.
11:45 is the chapter. I thought you'd think if it was 11:45 on the clock, that'd be just a fun little Easter egg. 11:15 feels weirdly specific. Maybe this is a reference back to 11:15. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this could be the Sun God Nika image they're saying could be directly from 11:15. Which, if it is, really smart, really fun.
I'm still going to be here, but I'm just going to quickly Google that while you're talking.
Yeah, you get into 11:15. So we start this chapter. I think I'm just going to quickly talk about Ogre Child Yamato's Golden Harvest Surrogate Pilgrimage Volume 30.
Goddamn.
We've had 30 chapters of Yamato's adventures in Wano. Ultimately, I feel like she's done not that much. She took out, Who's Who, and the guy with the lion's stomach.
Some other fellas.
Yeah, just like she's cleaning up from the Kaido era of Wano, but it's not
which is nice to
that
see.
Interesting. I think getting a character like Yamato who's so interesting, there could be a lot more getting done in this cover story. I gotta say, of all the cover stories we've had, I'm probably disappointed most in this one.
Very slow pace where we know where it's going.
Yeah, it's like he's really taking his time. I think by the looks of it, doesn't feel like this is the end or anything. Yamato also takes a sword in this one from someone, which I've just noticed then. I would love to do a bit of research on which sword that is. It could be a Kitetsu blade. Yeah, we're gonna have a pop up of the
wanna
Blade
start
show.
doing that.
We're gonna start editing.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot.
Yeah, give it a crack. We're new to this whole post, pre, and production of all kinds.
Rigmarole.
We got a photographer here, and then just a funny fella on the other side. I'm talking about Luffy over here. But yeah, no, I think like very boring, to be honest. Very boring start, or very boring cover page.
I like the idea of the cover stories telling stories,
Yeah.
but they could just be a little, just a bit more.
Well, when you look at the pre-time skip ones, like you look at Annals, that was what 9 chapters, and he made it to the moon, and we got probably more lore from Annals cover story than we did from some arcs.
Yeah.
It's like jarring how little we're getting in this cover story. Usually cover stories, because what the last cover story was, Aokiji and Van, the sniper, getting pudding.
Yeah.
And that was awesome because we see Aokiji come in and just immediately, like, ice Whole Cake Island and just absolutely destroy everyone remaining on
Put
there.
the icing on the cake.
Put the icing on the cake. We got a comedian over here. All right.
And that's why you listen to the Mocktown podcast.
Ha ha ha. That's a reference to me mocking him for that subpar joke. No, it was actually pretty funny. I liked it.
I'm the funny one. Saxon's the smart one.
I'm not smart. You're not funny. And I hate cherry pies. No. We start off this chapter.
Sorry.
You wanna break into something real quick?
Yeah, I have 2 things to add to
Yeah,
this.
definitely. Yamato's pilgrimage. This is. Are we still talking?
No, I'm done with
separate.
that.
We're past that.
Don't care.
Old news.
11:15.
11:15. Yes.
Yeah. Short summary as per One Piece wiki, a Dr. Vegapunk's announcement of Joy Boy. So that was just that.
Oh.
Episode.
So this cover page is showing the crowd looking at Joy Boy.
Yeah.
Looking at the reincarnation of Joy Boy. And I think one thing we can say, this isn't like... You've not seen Naruto, have you?
Nope.
For those who have, I'm sure you know, Naruto and Sasuke are reincarnations of particular characters, Ashura and Indra. I don't think this is that case.
Okay.
I think One Piece and Oda has made it clear that reincarnation is not a physical, like, soul reincarnation. I think it's a reincarnation of will and desire. And Luffy is just the next one to desire freedom.
Desire.
D's in the middle of Luffy's name. And personally, I think there may be potentially 2 other D's, but I think 1 other D on the crew.
Who?
You don't? I personally like
Robin.
to think Robin is a D. I think there's a chance that Robin could be could be Dragon's child, but I also don't think so. I think Dragon just...
Siblings.
Ulva. I think there is connection between Robin and Monkey D. Luffy. I think there is connections between Nico Ulva, or not Olivia, Oliver, Olvia.
You got it.
There we go. Nico Olvia and Dragon. I think there is some form of connection between those 2. We know Nico Olvia was married, but we never meet Nico Robin's father.
Yeah.
And took on the name Nico. The Monkey D name has a lot of connections, and based on the age difference between Monkey D. Luffy and Robin, I think it could be Dragon had just left the Marines and maybe out of protection. But then also, would he have said something when she was with the Revs for 2 years? But then would she have said something if he did?
How did Nico get to O'Hara? Do we know that?
Nico Olvia.
Or Robin?
Robin.
Just
She was
there?
born there. Nico Olvia is a resident of O'Hara. Whether she is born in O'Hara, we don't know, but we do know that she was a scholar
And
when Robin was born.
Good friends with Saul.
No.
Well,
No, friends. Saul didn't know about
Robin.
O'Hara until he landed. He washed up in O'Hara, and Nico Robin helped him, and then the Buster call came, and he was like, wait a second, why is this place getting a Buster call? And that's when he left the Marines, which actually was Aokiji killing him. One of the few fake out deaths I think was appropriate, especially when you think the name of the attack used to freeze Saul was Ice Time Capsule. I don't know about you, but I know time capsules, they tend to get opened. So I thought it was another moment of Aokiji's resistance to the Navy and the naval order. We've just delved completely in.
boy, do we get distracted.
We get distracted. But if it's... Yeah, please. You had something else.
That was kind of it. Oh, well, that was the first bit. 11:15 cover panel. Here.
Yep.
I can add that in without getting we won't get striked or anything.
No, we'll be fine.
Sick.
Especially because we're commenting on it. Fair use.
Yeah, Vegapunk reveals that back then the 20 Kingdoms formed world government to counter Joy Boy. And it's just the crew cheering on Joy Boy.
Yeah.
It's fun.
So I think, I think that's the connection. That's the time. There's probably not a whole lot else to delve in. And you had...
I had something else.
If you
listen to the previous episode, we were discussing the Tontatas.
Yes. Yeah, we're gonna go back. We've got the numbers, the figures, the data.
There's quite a bit. We've got a rough life for the history. So also known as dwarves. The Tontatas.
Yep.
This is according to the One Piece wiki, which I trust.
Yeah.
Over 900 years ago, the dwarves set out to sea in search of resources. The Don Quixote family... Sorry, it just moved. The Don Quixote family proposed a treaty in which they would provide shelter and resources in exchange for manual labor. As Gancho, the leader of the Tontatas, puts it, this was the darkest period of the Tontata tribe. The Don Quixote family enslaved the dwarves, and the humans of Dressrosa prospered from their labor. And then they've actually got connections to Mont Blanc Noland.
Wow. Okay. I've just finished watching Jaya. I really like Mont Blanc Nolan as a character. I really like Mont Blanc cricket. I like the whole idea. I like that he smiled during execution. Mont Blanc D Nolan, maybe? Or Nolan D Mont Blanc? I doubt it.
Nolan D. Mont Blanc.
Mont Blanc is his name, but I doubt that's the name. But that would be a way.
So
of
he helped
finding
them over 400 years ago.
it. Okay.
Helped them by fighting off the bad humans who were ravaging their lands.
Yeah. Okay.
So they've had it rough for the past.
They've had it
900 years.
rough. So they got to Dressrosa 900 years ago. That means there was 100 years of history before the Void Century. Oh no, they got to it just before the Void Century started, which says they were probably affected or impacted by what was the beginning of the war.
Yep.
And entered it at some point, and then by the end of those 100 years...
Well, sorry. After the Void Century, the Riku family became the rulers of Dressrosa.
Yes.
And then King Riku was saddened by the mistreatment of them and formed a bond with the Tontata.
Yes. So they were supported in Dressrosa pre-Doflamingo.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a storied history there. I thought it was for some reason I thought it was significantly longer. I was wrong. I put my hand up and I say that's why we fact check, and I'm glad you did that. So thank you very much, Declan. Now we've spoken about the cover page, but let's get into 1145.
Let's do it.
Let's get in. It again. We said we think it's a part 2 of setup. I think the real conflicts are about to start. this is still relatively early into the arc, so there's a very strong chance that this conflict that is getting set up in this is just going to be part one of a more major conflict again. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Let's just start. Page 1, we get a double page feature. We see a dragon. We think...
Monkey?
No, we see an actual dragon. And obviously you would assume everything is based in like nightmares.
Oh.
No nightmares at this point, but this is a real dragon or a real dinosaur. So basically it comes in, tries to attack. We get to see a fun little bit of Sanji Zoro team up work. Sanji just launches Zoro at the...
Broccoli in the sky.
Yeah, just absolutely goes crazy. I did like that little joke from that. But basically beheads the Saurus, and we find out the name is Groggy Saurus. So they have that name, I assume, because I think it's cooked in beer or cooked in grog.
Oh.
Yeah.
What if we got a grog sponsorship?
Yeah, would love it. Hey, Grog, support up-and-coming Australian YouTubers. Max Mofo, you pave the way for Australian YouTubers. Pay my way through life.
Money.
Money. I don't want to work.
So do you want to discuss Goldberg?
Well, yeah. So we get introduced to a homie in Elbaph.
A shield.
A shield that has a part of soul held by... A part of soul of a soul held by Goldberg. Obviously it's frightened to have to go up against the Groggy Saurus, but it ultimately saves what's his name? Goldberg. Yep. Sorry, I just completely blanked there. And then just immediately gets decapitated. But there is the dinosaur, that is. There is a conversation between Sanji and Goldberg, just referring to
His father?
The shield being a homie, and Sanji says, "Oh, we've got a homie on our crew, Zeus. It's now Nami's lackey." And this homie goes, "Zeus? That's so scary. Ogre. That's not different one." But yeah, no, that's really shocking about how respected Zeus is by other homies, especially because our perception of Zeus is that he is the least respected homie of what ends up being 4 homies, but is Zeus, the sword, and the hat.
The fire.
The fire, the sword, the hat. And then they...
Is the sword not the hat?
The sword and the hat are one and the same.
Yeah.
They are. So it goes hat, which is also... Or is it 2 different homies and all 4 of them combined together? Can't remember. It looks like the sword may be the homie and the hat is just the hilt. But the hat could also be its own homie. I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember. Whole Cake Island was a while ago for me.
10 years ago?
Yes, but it was like... I watched the entire series in 5 or 6 months, I think.
God damn.
Yeah, it was... I had a lot of time on my hands.
Kids these days.
Yeah. Had a lot of time on my hands, so
But,
I don't remember it all too well.
Anyway.
I flew through.
Hey, we're here. We're learning.
We're learning.
That's why we have a podcast about it. We're
But
actually
Zeus
not-
is respected.
But Goldberg says something interesting about his father. Now, Saxon has his tablet out with the chapter, so he can always be refreshing things.
Yes.
What does Goldberg say about his dad?
So they're talking about it. What's the deal with this guy? Sanji says, "Is it a devil fruit?" And the guy goes, "No. That shield came to life like that way back years ago when my dad went on an expedition to vanquish Big Mum."
I thought that was pretty cool.
That is pretty interesting. So there is a very strong chance this expedition was straight after Big Mum left.
Yeah.
She obviously had the power at this point. But I think by the fact that the shield knows about Zeus, I think there is a strong chance that this expedition maybe took place when Big Mum was a settled pirate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it could be post Zebek.
Yeah, yep.
After
After
the Rocks Pirates, she settles down at Whole Cake. The Elbaph Giants go, oh, you know that weird girl that ate like 12 people? She's living at some like Candy Island, a couple islands over. Let's go. Yeah, I find that is really interesting. Goldberg's father. Do you reckon we're going to get introduced into more of this expedition, or do you think this is just going to be a throwaway line?
It's hard to say of One Piece.
Yeah.
Probably is a throwaway line, just to show they're like, oh yeah, I come from...
Like, there's a storied history.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is always fun, and
Yeah.
I feel like everything like that doesn't have to get explained.
No. Sometimes you just... World building can sometimes be just referring to the existence of
Yeah.
things. Doesn't always have to be showing the existence of them.
But do you know Goldberg's position in the New Giant Warrior Pirates?
No, what is his position?
He's just the cook.
He's the cook. Well, that makes sense based on the next panels, which is
yes.
him
Sorry, that
being
just
like,
clicked
let
me
me
as well.
grab some herbs. And him and Sanji are like, let's cook. And he goes, oh, there's cooking utensils in the cabin that exists.
And I have one more little fact about Goldberg. He was the WCW World Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that's the real life Goldberg. That's a little joke for you wrestling fans out there. Formerly an S-class ranked mercenary for Buggy's Delivery.
Really?
Yeah.
So, in the time between Dressrosa, was Buggy's delivery service time skip only?
Pre-time skip. No, when was he a warlord? Pre-time skip.
Pre-time skip.
Yeah.
He gets given the warlord.
So he was doing this Buggy's
No.
Delivery, which is now...
He gets it during the time skip. So, that 2-year period where Luffy is training and the
sorry,
crew
he
is
just came
during
out
the
of
time.
prison.
He gets out of Impel Down. He gets granted the
Sorry, it was
warlord
the Marine
status.
outfit he was wearing during
Marine Ford, which
Yes.
confused me just then.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay, that's really interesting. So Goldberg was out. This guy's been sailing the sea. He's not an Elbaph like stay-at-home guy.
Yeah, I guess
He's
so.
not just following Hyrule again as well either.
And I assume, well, the New Giant
Warriors were a bit kind of all over.
Yeah.
Haruden being at Dressrosa, the other two, Dory and Broggy.
Well, they're the original, but all the Giants assumed they were just gone, like
Because they
dead
were in Little Garden
for 100
Island.
years.
So the whole crew has been like a little disbanded.
Yeah. The new Warrior Pirates, I think, was a creation by Hyrule to encourage Giants to get back out onto the Grand Line.
But yeah, he was keeping busy.
Okay, that's really interesting. So we know this guy's at least got a history of being
Yeah,
a strong
and
enough character.
Buggy's Delivery is now cross guild, which is kind of what that's been
Yes,
turned into.
yes. It seems like this guy's sort of stepped away from Buggy. I'm sure he was as you said, he was a mercenary, so he was just paid hire, paid
Yeah.
help.
Because I think people would contact Buggy for like protection of like countries.
Yes.
So yeah.
Or
So-
protection for cargo, because he was a delivery service.
I don't know if it was a delivery service.
Oh, I assume by the name delivery service that that's what it
a
was.
little odd of a name, but you can
Yeah.
do some research for us and leave it in the comments. Yeah, your research.
Yeah. Do your own research.
Sorry, that's what I've got about
Yeah.
Goldberg.
No, thank you. Obviously.
And former WWE
W-
Universal Champion.
Yeah, he
Beat the Fiend.
it was crazy to see an anime character that didn't exist in the ring in the 90s or 80s,
90s. And 2020s.
and 2020s.
Yep.
Back in it.
Mm-hmm.
This guy,
Not anymore. People didn't like it. Anyway, I digress.
yeah. Okay, perfect. So we end that, and then he talks about he's now the manservant to our navigator. And then we hear Holy Knights. That's right, they showed up here. It's Loki talking to either Road or Hyrule. I'm not 100% sure
Talking to the crew.
who questions the Holy Knights. But basically he just starts to debrief them on what he experienced. Why is he cut up? Because Luffy saw this man, he was weak, and he was strapped to a tree, but he was not hurt. And then all of a sudden, Loki's hurt. And he's been fixed now, for the most part. He's he's back healthy, ready to go. But he starts to explain to them, the Holy Knights came through and did some damage. You're saying that too beat you this badly? And it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, he's just accepted that. He's like, yeah, I'm saying this. So these guys are strong. I think it's Hyruden who asked that question about him getting beaten badly, and then proceeding to ask if it's like revenge for while Loki was on the seas. It seems like no. Yeah, Loki denies that immediately. He goes, I never interacted with the world government. So Loki's time on the sea, probably not as destructive as the Giants think it was. Because
I feel like if it was destructive, we would have heard about it by now.
We would have heard about it.
There would have been some sort of reference to it all.
He was trying to find love for a portion of it.
Rejected.
He got rejected. I also would want to date a guy who turns into a castle.
Ooh,
I love Beji.
Smokes a cigar.
Smokes cigars.
He's a family man.
Beji
Here
and
he
his
is.
little boy. We're going to put a family picture up
I'm
of
definitely
Beji.
going to miss like something.
So many of these, yeah. Yeah, it's going to be so bad.
Mockdown.
Mockdown. We don't even know how to edit. But yeah, basically, pretty interesting back and forth. I think Hyruden's a little bit shocked by the lack of Loki being strong. And then we get some good old Luffy hijinks. And this is one of those moments I love Luffy. We move into Luffy being like, I'm going to feed Loki by just plopping
everything in his mouth.
all the meat in his mouth, boiling hot. Loki's like, what the f*** are you doing? This is destroying me.
What the f*** you doing?
Yeah, self-censored. Literally to the point where he's like, are you trying to kill me? Luffy's like, oh, let me bring some water. I don't want you to choke. Boiling water.
What is he just like, hot, 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 hot?
Yeah, he's like, hot, hot, hot. And then he's like, Loki's like, what are you doing? So he's really bringing the seriousness away from Loki.
But we get a thumbs up.
We get a thumbs up.
From the nurse or the doctor?
Oh, yes, we do. We do. From Gerd.
Good.
Yeah, no, I think this is a moment less of like, it's obviously a joke. It's just a little bit of fun Oda's having. But I think this also shows that Loki is not the threat we think he is. I think this is just more affirmation of the fact that Loki, probably a good guy, because he's just letting Luffy do Luffy hijinks. And it could also be because that one punch Luffy gave him, he may be like, this guy will kill me. Like, this is a Yonko
I could tell he was
guy.
holding back.
Yeah, like, I can tell that this guy just hit me. Like, there was no haki on Luffy when he did it. There was no, it wasn't super big. Loki knew he was going to fall from the punch before he even got hit. So I think this could be a moment where Loki may be like, oh, Luffy's too strong. I just have to accept it.
Because Loki might have really good observation haki.
That, I don't even think he needs. I think he just could be perceptive to strength. Like, most strong people go.
I see it more as that's why he's blinded. It's because his observations. He sees already too much.
I think it's less of a... he's blinded to hinder his observation. I think he is blind and he sees... He's like Fujitora, where he only sees in observation haki. Fujitora obviously blinded himself because of the horrors he had seen, which I would love to get into at some point, like, in the story. I really want a Fujitora background. He was a security guard for a gambling ring.
Oh.
That's his history. He was picked up by the Marines because, he was on an island, a casino island, as, like, the head of security. And they were like, we need this guy. But he saw something in his life where he cut his eyes to the point where
While
he
he was in the Marines?
No. Well, we don't know, but I would suggest by the scarring and his age, he probably did it when he was young. I think with Loki, it could be a matter of, like, he blinded himself, hence the bandages. Maybe he was always blind and was just like, I want to put the bandages on because they look cool as shit.
I think it's more like, I can't remember, this is the worst part, I can't remember what I'm thinking of. But, like, I think he maybe just takes in too much.
Yeah.
So he has to be blinded to, like, kind of calm himself. Like,
so what you would maybe also perceive as Zoro's closed eye would be a similar use case of like, observation, to train observation to be good enough, to be at the elite level, like a Hawkeye Mihawk, who you assume probably has the best observation haki in the show with the name Hawkeye.
I'm going to say it. I don't think anything's going to happen with Zora's closed eye.
You think it's just he lost an eye?
Yeah.
Hey, sometimes the simplest explanation is the correct one.
Because
Oftentimes
he's got a slash there, right?
He's got a slash there. But I could also see that as being the self-hindered blindness in order to train observation haki in one particular way or another. In the same way Fujitora has insane observation haki, and in the same way that we could see Loki have insane observation haki. This is a story where blindness is ultimately the choice of your own will. It's like, you're born blind, just will your observation haki enough to see. If not, you're just a scrub who's blind.
Damn.
It's pretty savage. It's pretty mean. And I will admit, I find one real glaring issue with the story is why literally everyone in the Grand Line doesn't know about haki. Like, it never gets brought up by just like regular
Oda didn't know about it when he started writing.
No. But even if we go post-time skip only, like, I expected everyone to be like, not have haki, but everyone to be aware of it. But some people just think it's like, don't know it. And obviously because it's an invisible ability, the black hand and stuff, that is a perception for the reader. Yeah, it's not for the story. I don't think it's ever been referenced as being for the story, they say. I think with Virgo, no one ever mentions the fact that his skin is black. It's just he has full body armament.
There's nothing wrong with that, though.
No. But yeah, no, I think haki's going to be a big part of this arc. I think the Elbaph giants are going to... They tend to not have devil fruits.
Have we seen them use haki?
We've seen Dory and Broggy use haki many times. We saw last chapter or this chapter?
Last chapter.
The Hukaku sovereignty that has black lightning all around it. So these guys are conquerors users.
Yes.
I don't know if it's confirmed, but I'm of the personal opinion with haki, and this is, I think, something that's heavily debated because they're in like things like Viva cards. There's confirmed Conquerors haki users. My opinion on haki, and I want to delve really deep into this at a later date, is that everyone has it and everyone is using it to a different level. So if you're using like one particular scene, I believe it's in the fight between Pedro or the Mr. Baby, what's his name? The guy who dressed up, and Frankie from Dressrosa.
Oh.
Mr. Five.
Dressrosa. Senor Pink.
That's
it.
Of
Brokerworks.
Yeah, Brokerworks, Mr. Five. No, Senor Pink versus Frankie. When Frankie body slams Senor Pink, in the panel there is a shockwave that is drawn black, and I think it's drawn a little bit like black lightning. And my personal opinion is, in that moment, Frankie was so determined and so willed to beat Senor Pink that when he threw that down, a little bit of Conqueror seeped out. And because he conquered Senor Pink in that moment. He defeated a guy who he respected and was on a similar, if not increased, power level to Frankie. So as I said, I want to delve into that more. I think Conqueror's haki is not something you're born with, especially because Oda is not the writer who is like, you have to be born with things to do great things. You just have to have the will. And if you understand will isn't something you're born with. It's something that can grow and can be destroyed at the same time. Like your will to do something. If you're like, oh, I really want to do this thing that you've never done before, and then you really like it, you're going to have the will to just keep pushing and keep learning, keep growing, getting better. Where if you do something, you're like, I really want to do that, and then someone's like, you're terrible, your will can get squashed. You're not going to keep pursuing what you're never going to invest the amount of care and desire you invested before. So I think
Desire. The word popped up again.
a word keeps popping up. I think will, I think desire, I think all those things are a fundamental part of this story.
The will of D.
The will of D,
The will
obviously,
of
like
desire.
it's potentially. Have we come on to something? You tell us.
Leave a comment.
Leave a comment. Yeah, seriously,
Please talk to
tell us how you feel about that. We would love to, have some dialogues in future episodes with our fans or people that just listen, even if they hate everything we're saying and disagree with us entirely. I'd love to just get a little interaction.
Oh, yeah. If you disagree, tell us why.
Yeah, I just want to know people are listening. That'd be fun.
I'm probably wrong with most things.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, I want to delve way deeper into that later on a later episode. I just think there is a lot of opportunity for hockey and specifically Conqueror's hockey to be a more achievable goal for everyone, and that's why I think we're going to see Sanji, Usopp, Nami, Zoro, and Luffy all with Conqueror's hockey. As I think the guys, the later five, I think their dreams, maybe Nico Robin as well, and maybe Chopper as well, but I think these three just want to help Luffy reach his dream. But I think these, Frankie, Brook, and Jinbei also just want everyone to achieve their dream. Frankie's dream is to just make a boat that sails to the end of the Grand Line, to make a boat that gets to Lodestar or Laughtale. He's going to do that. He's just joining him for the ride. Brook just wants to see Laboon. He's ultimately just joining him for a ride. Jinbei just wants to protect Luffy. So he's ultimately just there for the ride. I think, obviously, Jinbei already has Conquerors, I think.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Like, this is a warlord. I think Jinbei's...
Big Mum.
Yeah. And there's a chance all 10 of them could get Conqueror's Haki by end of series.
Except Usopp.
No, I think Usopp's a guarantee to have it.
I'm sick of Usopp.
Sick of it. I need his interaction with Papa Usopp. I need Papa Yasop to come in and teach Usopp to be a little braver, a little bit less cowardly, and to show him that he is strong. But you know what? We've been talking for a while, and we've barely touched this chapter. So I think we're going to move on from the Luffy-Loki interaction where...
Power through it.
Yeah, they power through it.
What's happening next?
Obviously, at the end, after the drink situation, they ask Loki, so you're going to tell us about red hair? And he goes, well, no, you haven't fully freed me. I'm still contained. But I do know where it is. This is a character who's named after the god of mischief. There's a very good chance Loki doesn't know shit. I also have noticed that, for example, when Ace and Shanks meet, and Ace wants to thank Shanks for protecting his kid brother or for inspiring his kid brother, they're in an ice cave. I think there is a chance that Shanks has just about been sitting on Elbaph the entirety of the story, and that is truly his base, and he may have a physical base on the lower levels of Elbaph. And as we said before with Loki's observation, he may know where it is.
And you think that's where Ace visited?
I think Ace visited Elbaph, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, like, Ace...
Ace was with his crew, right?
He was with the Whitebeard crew. He was with but he used to go solo. He used to go solo. He used to... Oh, actually, no. In that, he hadn't joined the Whitebeard crew. You're right. He hadn't joined the Whitebeard crew.
The Spade Pirates.
He was still with the Spade Pirates. So maybe it wasn't Elbaph. I think there's still a chance that it was, and that this is just where Shanks hangs out. The lower level of Elbaph could be just the place he feels comfortable.
It's a place no one would visit.
It's a well protected place. It's a place he knows he's not going to get any. He's not going to have to actively fight for because they are so strong. And the one time he did was Loki. He protected them from themselves. Ultimately, like he vanquished the unvanquishable by the giants, and he just sort of sits around and lets them deal with everything else that they can deal with. But yeah, basically we get some more conversation, and then it moves into Loki talking about his dream as a child to join a pirate crew. So we mentioned this last episode. We started to talk about Luffy as wanting to join Shanks, Colin wanting to join Shanks, Otama wanted to join Luffy. You know, Otama also wanted to join Ace.
Yep.
So like, there's a lot of precedent for children wanting to become pirates, and as we spoke about with Shanks and Buggy both being apprentices, it looks like most apprentices don't get the job, but they really want it, and a lot of kids do. And I'm of the personal opinion that there is going to be an apprentice on our crew. Luffy did say, he goes, I want like 10 friends. When at the start of the story, we're at 9. I think an apprentice would be the perfect ending.
Wait, we're at what?
We're at 9. 9 friends and Luffy. 10 with Luffy. So it could just be these 10 are the crew, and we're never getting someone else.
It's such a small crew.
Because all these guys joined pre-time skip. I know Jinbei technically joined in Wano, but he ultimately joined Luffy's story and the direction of Luffy at Marineford, or at Impel Down. So it could be very well that what was meant was he wants like 10 people, including him. And there we go. We have 10 people. It's been decided since pre-time skip. That would make sense. First half of the story, introduce the main cast. Second half of the story, let them do their adventure. I think there is also a chance that we get an apprentice. I thought Otama was going to join. At the same time, I also thought Odin at the time, now Yamato, was going to join.
Yep.
I now see that Yamato may not join.
Bonnie? What about Bonnie?
Bonnie was another one I'm a big fan of. I really like Bonnie, but I think now it's safe to say Bonnie's just going to stay with Vegapunk until the Revs. I think the natural progression for Bonnie is going to be the Revolutionary Army, and I think the natural next place for a revived Vegapunk will be back with the Revs. We already know he has a good relationship. He had a great relationship with Kuma. Kuma never held any resentment towards Vegapunk for what Vegapunk had to do. It was always a matter of, in order for Vegapunk to live his dream, he needed to bend the knee at the time. He tried not to with Mads, but he did bend the knee. But he messed with the world government as much as he helped them. When you look at things like the pacifistas and stuff, like, they're
under his control.
They're under his control. The Gorosei are above him. But because there's no updates, that's only 4 people that are above him now, instead of 5.
Yeah.
Because we don't know if you have to do something to make them be the top dog. Like, if he would have to do an exception.
Like Figaland.
Yeah, for Figaland Darling to become a controller of the Pacifista and the Seraphim. I assume the Seraphim are under the control of the world government in terms of, like, they're in the possession of the world government. Yeah. That was yes, they are. So they're obviously going to be a big part of the world government's power, especially now that the 7 warlords have disbanded and most of them have been handled. It was a great way. The balance of power was always held by the 7 warlords. It's a great way to reintroduce them stronger than ever.
Yeah.
So they're going to be under the control of the world government for the meantime. But it seems like a lot of the pacifista and stuff, they're still going to have to listen to people like Vegapunk, and they have to get the command directly from a Gorosei in order to overwrite Vegapunk's instructions. But the crew that Loki wants to join,
big one,
the Rocks Pirates.
Possibly the biggest.
I would say the most mysterious crew. Definitely the most
very silhouetted crew.
This Oda refuses to show rocks, and I think there's a reason. I'm gonna drop my little rocks theory.
Is this what I said to you the other day?
No, I feel like I've told you this in the past. My rocks theory.
Oh, Red Nose?
Here a look.
What?
Here a look. Rocks is Here a look. Dr. Here a look from Chopper's hometown.
I haven't heard this before.
You've not. I've not told you this. So my personal opinion, Kureha refers to Hiraluk as a thief that used to work in the West Blue. Now, there's only ever been one thing in the entire story that has been a heist held in the West Blue. God Valley.
Look into the camera for this one.
God Valley. God Valley was a heist set up by Roxy Zebek. Who did Rox have on his crew? Pirates. All pirates.
Do you want me to name them?
Do you think you can?
Yeah. I thought I could.
I reckon you can get a couple.
Whitebeard.
Yeah.
Kaido.
Mm-hmm.
Big Mum.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Dr. John?
Mm-hmm. John. Yeah. Captain John.
Yeah, Captain John. That's actually all I know.
Wang Ji.
Is that the one we've seen on Thriller Bark? Because there's two there, aren't there?
No. Wang Ji is the guy who I think he may still be alive, but was a part of the Kobe Blackbeard law battle that happened.
Oh, he was there?
Yeah. So what that was that's how Blackbeard got Hachinosu, Beehive Island. The Pirate Island. Wang Ji was the king of the Pirate Island.
Mm-hmm.
And then Trafalgar Law, Kobe, and Blackbeard teamed up to take down Wang Ji. Blackbeard did it to get warlord status. Trafalgar Law did it
Was a warlord
to get warlord status. He took all the hearts of the people, gave them back to the Marines for his warlord status. But back to Dr. Hiraluk. I think Dr. Hiraluk could be Roxy Zebek. And I think that's why Oda is refusing to show him. Roxy Zebek has spiky hair. Hiraluk obviously has that 3.
He's missing some hair.
He's missing some hair, but he's got the 3 long things. He wants to be a doctor. What did he see happen on God Valley? Just people getting killed. He couldn't do anything about it. The way he's spoken about, he seems like a charismatic guy who just got a band of pirates together. He has this immense respect for pirates, but he's not one. The Rock's crew is never referred to as like a pirate crew. It's referred to as like, or I think it is referred to as a pirate crew, but they say it wasn't a pirate crew. It was more a collection of pirates doing a heist. They were joined together to do a massive heist, and Rox was the leader. I think Dr. Hiraluk is Rox Zebek.
God damn. You have not told me this before?
No.
That's crazy. So how funny would it be? I'm not going to say I'm for that or against it, because it's fun. So I like to keep that good juju around. But how funny would it be if there's a photo of Rox and all you see is Chopper going, oh, Dr. Hiraluk. He's
Papa.
like, that's Papa.
Papa. Now, I just want to also mention that Dr. Hiraluk did something when he died. He had a big old smile on his face.
Big old grin.
Big old grin. I think their Hiraluk is set up in a way that he wasn't known as a good person. And he wasn't a good doctor. He was a whack job doctor. Who's more likely to become a whack job doctor than some random thief who wants to save people? Who said he himself was saved by a cherry blossom blooming?
Oh Lord.
I think Hiraluk is a really interesting character. I think pretty much everything pre-Alabasta or pre-Skypiea is very coded towards end of series One Piece. Start of Grand Line One Piece, end of series One Piece are going to have a lot of two sides of the same coin. I think Elbaph, we've got one of those sides right now. I think there is a real chance, and I've got some more evidence that I'd like to slip in the future, but I don't have it with me, so I might leave it there. I do personally think Rox Zebek is a character we've seen, hence the reason he is still to this day. Because why would you silhouette a character who's now getting like genuine chunks of the story that he is involved in? Why is he still silhouetted if it's a brand new character?
Yeah.
Like, if we didn't know who Rox was, the place to unsilhouette him was the God Valley flashback. Because Oda knows when that God Valley flashback we got, as short as it was, if he had just gone, and here's Rox Dieselback. Everyone would be like, here he is, finally. And then you don't have to silhouette anymore. By silhouetting him, it's suggesting something.
You're hiding something.
Hiding something.
And if you're going to do a full reveal, you have to explain it. Imagine if they did the God Valley when we saw it last.
Yeah.
And it was just Dr. Hiruluk and it was never explained.
It would be bizarre. It would be bizarre. So I feel like you're right, you can't really show, and it doesn't, you can't show Zabek until his history, his backstory, the full situation is shown. But you could do that if it was a character we didn't know.
Yeah.
Because then it's just a character design. All you're doing,
that's how he looks.
That's how he looks. Oh, cool, we know his design now. I think there's a reason Oda is hiding it, and I like to think that there is a character out there whom is Rox Dieselback, or was Rox Dieselback. I like to think he survived beyond God Valley.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we don't know what happened to God Valley. We don't know how. We know he was defeated.
He was pretty rough with Chopper, wasn't he?
He was pretty rough with Chopper. He was very mean. He had a pirate flag.
We've seen Rock. Is it, no, sorry.
Rox
stabbed Loki.
Yes,
and
yes.
Whitebeard was like, bro, that's just a kid.
Yeah, yeah. So to move on,
like Dr. Hiruluk would stab Chopper.
Well, yeah, he shot Chopper. He
Yeah.
shot at Chopper and like hit him. And then Chopper goes and gets a mushroom, and then Saxon cries. That is, yeah, it's one of the most beautiful arcs, and probably the best backstory of anyone in the crew.
We've also first hear about Whitebeard.
Blackbeard.
Yeah, sorry.
Blackbeard. I was
Sorry,
like,
I was
was
thinking
it?
of the snow.
Yes, that is the introduction of Blackbeard. So the island is. Why was Blackbeard there? The Saber of Zabek?
Bruh.
Bro, I think I might be on something. Let me actually really. We met. Yeah, that one's something we're gonna really have to delve into. I'm gonna delve into that. I'm gonna stop it there because we don't need to right now.
Fuck.
We're only at the start of the chapter and we're an hour in. We've been yapping. So basically, yeah, Loki gets absolutely beat up by Zabek, and he goes, "You didn't have to use a blade on the kid." And he goes, "Shut up, Newgate." So this guy's clearly strong enough to be like talking smack to Newgate and to kill and to hurt a young Loki who's seen as rambunctious toward. Like everyone refers to him as like an absolute menace at this age.
Because a young Loki could still be like 50 years old.
Exactly, and even though he's got the body of a child, he's probably pretty damn strong. He's
Like
probably
Kaido.
got the body of a really strong.
Didn't Kaido join as a teen?
Yeah. Loki's a child by the looks of it. Like we can't. Yeah, I'm looking at the little corner of Loki here. He's definitely a child. So he's probably in his 20s or 30s at this point. Around the same age as Colin, I would say, is probably a good estimate.
Do you think?
I would say you could probably estimate him to be about Colin's age, wanting to join a pirate crew the same age as Colin. That makes sense. Same age of adventure. But yeah, so interesting. Who is Rox? What is Rox's goals? But to move on from Loki, we cut to the rest of Elbaph, and we get
So much is
Dory and
happening.
Brogy.
It's all falling apart.
It is. We get Dory and Brogy. They run over one of the a Draugr. The Loki imagination Loki is attacking them. Gabon looks very excited to fight. He's just breathing it in. He comes in and takes out. He takes out Loki, and then immediately is like, "Thank God these kids don't know how strong Loki is, because I would not be able to do that."
But he also says something else interesting. I don't know if that's in the same page, where he's like, "Oh, if Elbaph is under attack, then the world isn't safe."
Yes, that was something. Yes, he goes, even if Elbaph isn't safe anymore, then it's truly the end of days. He also mentions there are more of them now. 3, a trio of abnormal voices. They can try to hide, but I can still feel them. So obviously, I think this is another sign Gabon has exceptional observation haki, and I believe it's been mentioned that you can No, yeah, Shanks stops other people's future sight by having such strong observation haki that he can't be observed. So there's a very strong chance that we're coming up against people who are like that. So now we need our crew to have insane observation haki. I think Usopp probably has the biggest range of observation haki already. Luffy obviously has future sight. I think Zoro and Sanji has ridiculous observation haki that is built on love.
Yeah.
So I think that really goes well with Summers, because he can sense a woman in distress across an island, like genuinely insane observation haki. He's just used a woman in distress to be his benchmark of like, this is something I care about. This is what comes out when when I hear this. Like I'm gonna actually focus on this. But you're right. It is. We do get some interesting stuff from Gabon. I think he's aware that it's the turn of a new era, and this arc is probably going to be the last arc of the era of the golden era of piracy, which is the era started by what's his name? Roger. Gold Roger. Gold D Roger. And then we get the firefighter team sucking. Can't stop a fire in their own forest.
I have a note here. It says Jinbei, Mad Dog.
Jinbei, goat.
Shoulder throw.
Yeah. We get a little bit of back and forth between Saul. He's knocked out Fenrir pretty easily. He's just trying to stop the kids. They keep walking. We have Gunko and Summers looking over. They're watching. They're on one of the branches. They're watching.
They don't care if the kids burn.
They want the kids to burn. They go, what's the goal here? And Summers asks, like, are the kids gonna wake up? And then Gunko's like, yeah, they're gonna wake up, and then they scream for their parents and burn to death, and it's gonna be the best. Celestial dragons, not very nice people. Let's talk about that. But then we get shoulder throw.
Bam.
Big Papa Jinbei. The big dog. We love Jinbei. We love Jinbei. Jinbei.
Like bay.
Yeah, I got ya.
Yeah.
I get ya. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, you
I like it.
pretty fast.
I just like Jinbei.
Jinbei?
That would be my little pet name for him if he was my boyf.
Jinbei?
Oh, Jinbei. That was one of the most Australian things I've ever said. Which I'm also very confused about, because I'm actually just looking at how Jinbei spelt in the manga, and it's Jimbei.
Yeah.
And then that one's Jinbei.
Jinbei. Yeah.
Interesting.
So have you not come across this before?
No.
There's so many spellings for
Jinbei? Really?
Yeah.
Never noticed that. But yeah, they come in, the Straw Hat crew that joined Colin. I went through those before. Come on in. We got Brook, Usopp, Nami, Jinbei, and Colin, of course. Come flying in. Jinbei saves the day. The wildfire in Forest Sector 2, Branch Route 8 has been put out. We're good. We're in the clear. No more fire. The kids are still walking, though.
Uh-oh.
The kids, they're still walking. Everyone's just like, oh my god, you're amazing to Jinbei. And we're on to the last panel, or the last page. Yeah, no, last panel. And someone has joined the ship with the kids.
No.
We got Gunko on the ship, and she's ready to take people down.
Who else is on the ship?
We got Usopp, Nami, Jinbei, and Brook, and
Soul
Gunko.
King.
Soul King. Oh yeah, true.
Did you
Okay,
not-
no, because I haven't really thought about it. No, you're right. We're gonna get Soul King Brook. We're gonna have a fan of Soul King Brook.
Sulking.
Sulking.
Enunciate more.
Soul King Brook has a fan, and he. Oh, do you think that?
Might
So
wanna-
you think Gunko and Brook are gonna be a fight?
I don't know, because I think... Look, when Soul King was doing his business for the 2 years, just touring around the world, wasn't he being thrown like panties and stuff? Like, wasn't that known?
Yeah, no, his perverse nature was finally getting
It does
accepted
feel
by the
weird
world.
to talk about now in front of a camera.
Yeah.
Just panties.
And then when you have a character who has Yeah, visibly
People
no
are
pants
saying
on.
it's just a outfit, like there's leggings, but
No, there's absolutely not because that's skin.
like look at like it's drawn quite
It's
provocatively.
It's pretty provocative. And what do you mean, like Oda? For people saying that, like interesting when Oda had Nami in a
Egghead.
One Piece, like with just.
What do you mean, Nami in One Piece? Of course she is.
No, like Oda's a fucking dirty dog. He'll draw women without pants on. He'll draw men without pants on. I'm looking at you, Frankie.
And Senor Pink.
And Senor Pink. Well, that's a nappy. That's even weirder. But God, you'll nearly cry about it, or you will cry about it if you're me.
His backstory.
His backstory.
Stop getting distracted.
I know. But Gunko's joined the battlefield.
I think there's gonna be something.
I think there's gonna be something.
Gonko. Because when I arrived today, one of the things I did was double check Brooke's wanted poster, and I kind of just forgot it was a tour poster.
Yeah.
So there's obviously, if you're listening to New World, as Gunko was in the previous chapter, Gunko knows who Soul King is, and is gonna know it's Brooke from the crew.
Yeah.
So there's definitely gonna be something there. There has to be something.
There's going to be an interaction at absolute least.
Why
It's
show
pretty crazy that it's within a chapter.
Listening to New
Like,
World.
if it's so closely referenced that she's listening to New World and then meets him, there's gonna be. I could see her fangirling and the fight just being over immediately.
I'm your biggest fan. I'm sorry, I have to kill you.
Or I'm your biggest fan. I can't wait to kill you.
Yeah, be something like
just
that.
be some psycho
Something
fan.
like John Lennon, whatever his name was, the guy that killed him.
Yeah. It could. Actually, that's a really good reference.
Oh, how funny would it be if Brooke does get shot, falls to the ground,
and then he goes like, "I'm already dead."
Yeah,
He, like you see his like soul float up, and he's like, "I'm already dead," and then he just picks his body back up.
He'll do that walk, like the silly John Lennon meme.
Yeah,
Here
God,
it is.
that'd be funny. But I want to get into Gunko. I've got some.
Got some theories.
I got a particular theory about Gunko.
But sorry, just quickly.
Oh yeah.
That was 11:45.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, we've completed 11:45.
What did you guys think about it?
I think it was a really fun chapter. I'm really excited for 11:46.
Elbaph has been so good.
Elbaph has even. I do sometimes find setup reading week to week can be uninteresting.
Yeah.
Because you know what's going to happen next, but you just want to get to what's going to happen next.
Well, like, especially, I feel like the past two chapters, I had 4 notes that I was like, these are the only ones worth bringing up for me.
Yeah.
And they were all very small things. And one of them just said Jimbei Mad Dog.
Exactly. And it's like, with setup, usually not a lot to talk about unless you're us and we deviate every 2 seconds. But I think this, as far as just the combination of action, lore, and setup, that like it's setting up action. It had a little action with the water. It's set and the Draugr and like the,
Loki.
Yeah, Loki. But it's setting up lore with Loki and
The past.
Elbaph, the facility from last chapter. I think like the setup has been done very fluidly while also having to deal with conflict the whole way through. There's not been a moment of like no conflict that was set up, because sometimes it's just like say it, don't show it.
Yep.
This is all being shown. But yeah, I think this has been an amazing run, and I'm really keen to get into the depths of Elbaph and really start this arc.
It's been a giant run.
It's been a giant run. I think it's going to be a giant
Arc.
I think it's going to be a big arc. Long, scary. But I want to get into Gunko.
Gunko.
I have a theory. Where is Gunko from? You know, she speaks. She hasn't eaten great food. You know, she got to experience fine dining delicacies with Summers and the other one. Shepherd. Shepherd and Summers, they show her, she eats the food, she's so excited still. They treat her like she's new to royalty. And I think she is. I think she is a powerhouse slave that they had, and they went, hey, this girl's pretty driven. She's pretty strong. She's probably got pretty good haki, or like a very strong will to survive. And they gave her the title of Celestial Dragon by entering her into the God's Knights. And you would think with the amount of weakness within the Celestial Dragons that most of the God's Knights are probably outside pickups. They're probably ex-Marines. They're probably
that is interesting.
ex-slaves. Hence the reason they're more uncouth. Like you look at a Summers, he's sleepy, doesn't really want to be there, doesn't really care, in a chair wearing his underwear. The other guy seems like he's like more grateful. He's a little bit more poised.
That's Shepherd, right? Shepherd's the dragon?
Shepherd's the dragon.
Yep.
Or maybe it's the other way around, but I think Shepherd's the dragon. Shepherd is, he's a little bit more tied up. He seems like he's more part of the Celestial Dragon aristocracy.
Looks goofy.
But he looks goofy and he responds and talks in a pretty goofy way. So I think there's a very strong chance that he's all three of them are outside collections, and the only actual Celestial Dragon family is the Figurlins. And even they could just be a family that was introduced to the environment by Garling. Garling could just be a guy who was really strong, who they, from the Marines or something, who they picked up and have turned into a Celestial Dragon. It seems like they have a little bit of awareness that having a bunch of people stay together, 19 families stay together, you're probably not going to get some strong people after 900 years.
Probably going to get weaker.
Probably going to get weaker, and Emu probably has just picked the strongest of the bunch, and then probably the strongest of their slaves.
But where does Gunko come into this?
Now, what was Gunko's past?
Goddamn, sorry.
I think she's a slave.
That was a sick co-host move.
It was.
Just fucking...
You threw me right back in. And I've just noticed Gunko's got some interesting accessories. An interesting accessory, particularly on top of her head, pair of goggles and some bandages. She's been wrapped up. Probably had some injuries, got some scars. Could she have maybe sapphire scales?
Ooh,
like Ginny and Bonnie. Could she wear goggles? Revolutionaries tend to wear goggles. I know a character who famously wore goggles. Similar goggles. Almost the exact same. Ginny. Now, Ginny was in the Holy Land of Merijois for 10 years before Bonnie was born.
didn't have the best time.
She was a slave. She was a wife. There is a very strong chance, I'm going to guess, Gunko could be the daughter of Ginny. The first, the eldest, the older sister of Jewelry Bonnie.
And maybe that's where all these God's Knights come from.
Yeah. It's just like they get their ninth wife. They have a kid that's strong. They use the kid in slavery. The slavery, they go, this slave's really strong. Is way more productive than everyone. Let's see if they can fight. Gives them a little fight. Let's see if they can do this. Sends them out on a few missions. Makes them, do some probably atrocities. And then gives them the title of Celestial Dragon. That's the only way in. Ginny is always referred to as a slave, never a Celestial Dragon, despite being married into it. So there's obviously a dynamic of, you don't just become a Celestial Dragon because you're married into it.
Yep.
Otherwise, you'd have 9 new Celestial Dragons just for one guy who wants to marry someone every week. We don't know who Ginny's father was. I think there's a chance it could be Shamrock, just for age. But Shamrock seems a little bit too young. He's about 40. She's 51 at time of speaking.
You wouldn't think it's Mercury?
Could be also, yes. The science. Yeah, I do think it's. Was it Mercury who died?
Yeah. Walkery?
Yeah.
The Spider-Man.
The Spider-Man. I think that's likely the father. And I think Gunko is likely the daughter of Ginny. And I've always wondered, if Ginny is always wearing goggles, why doesn't Jewelry Bonnie have those goggles? And I think it makes sense that she gave those goggles to her eldest daughter. And the wrapping could be a sign of she survived sapphire scales.
Because we know it can be cured.
Because we know it can be cured. It worked on Jury Bonnie. And I think she is just another one of those experiments, another one of those pieces in the puzzle. And I think there is connections to the Revolutionaries just by her character design. I think there is also resemblance. Obviously, we need to see her face and her hair color. So the anime is going to definitely help with this. But if we see pink hair before we find anything out about her that contradicts it, I think I'm dead on.
Heard it here first. Potentially,
maybe.
That'd be big.
It'd be huge, and I think more connections for Jury Bonnie and the Revolutionary Army against, like, more emotional connection. Can you not imagine Jury Bonnie fighting Gunko in the future, and then them having a confrontation about being sisters, and Jury Bonnie being like, "Why didn't you leave? Like, you can leave now. Why didn't you leave and join the Revs?" And then her being like, "Because the only way I survived slavery was becoming a celestial dragon. You know, like, I owe my life to these people."
Or they've just been brainwashed.
But that's
Revs
exactly it.
evil.
She has been brainwashed to believe being a celestial dragon is a good thing. So I think there's a really interesting narrative reason why you would have them be siblings. But I also think it's just, I think it's leaning that way. I think a character like Gunko being referred to as, like, not a full-blown celestial dragon, or being different to celestial dragons, makes sense that she is, like, the newest Holy Knight, and that she's related to a faction outside of the Holy Knights. And I think the Revs are the most logical thing, because all the Revs wear goggles.
Yeah.
Every Rev wears goggles. She's the only person I've seen that wears the goggles on her head, but isn't a Rev.
Dragon
is the only Rev that doesn't wear goggles, and Kuma as well. But Kuma is not technically not a Revolutionary Army member.
No.
And Dragon's the leader. But, like, even Sabo, right-hand man.
On his hat.
Does Ivankov?
No.
No, but she's also technically, she's a part of the Revs, but she's also not a part of the core Revs.
Yeah.
She's not like a fleet. She's basically just like the leader of the Kamabaka Queendom.
Yeehaw.
Fucking, I love the Kamabaka Queendom. Don't get me started. Love them. Love the vibe. But it seems like she's more an affiliate of the Revolutionary Armies and a friend of Dragon, in the same way Kuma was an affiliate, but he was technically a pirate. She's, they're technically the queen of the Kamabaka Queendom, not a revolutionary.
Morley was the one that founded. Wait, did Morley find...
Morley was a part of the founders' crew.
Yeah.
Morley wears goggles.
All very interesting.
Yeah. Koala, goggles.
Kai.
Goggles.
Digimon.
Yep, he wears goggles too. Never watched Digimon. I was a Pokemon kid.
Yeah.
Outrageous.
That'll be the next podcast series.
Yeah, no, it won't. It won't. But yeah, basically, I just think there's gonna be narrative connections for Gunko, and I think there's a reason she's coming up against 4, and specifically 2 relatively strong people, but 4 people that are a part of the crew. I don't think Gunko is gonna get in a life or death fight here. I don't think there's going to be a one-on-one fight. I think there is going to be a moment of probably Usopp stepping up to her in a show of bravery. Nami stepping up to her in a show of protecting Colin. Jinbei trying to knock her up. No, I don't think he's going to try and do that. Knock her off the ship. And I think Brooke having that interaction with her being a fan of his music. And I think ultimately we're going to see maybe Colin end the interaction by pushing her off, or maybe even being attacked by her and it getting blocked, or some.
Well, the reason she's there is because they didn't get Colin.
Yes.
So he's the number one threat.
He's the target. He's the target. And I think Colin being the target is... Gabon's going to come in. That's probably going to scare off.
Yeah, fuck.
It's probably going to scare off.
Don't mess with Colin. Gunko? Shepherd? Summers?
or Summers. I think Gabon's probably going to scare them off, and then that's what's going to be the catalyst for the Holy Knights bringing in
The Holier Knight.
Shamrock, maybe a Gorosei, which I think if it is a Gorosei, it'll be Garling.
So how do we think... Because last time we saw Dragon, he said, we'll move when the God Knights move.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a way this will get back to Dragon? So I feel like it was a recent thing that was said. It was a big thing that was said. And now...
Yeah, well, Dragon's obviously got someone posted out in front of... Well, he's obviously got the revs posted at the elevator to get up to Merijois.
Yeah.
Because he keeps destroying the food supplies. So I guess he could be waiting for the God's Knights to come down there. And he's unaware that Elbaph is currently getting attacked. Elbaph's a very secular island. It's like Wano. It doesn't have access to the rest of the...
There's no port.
Yeah, there's no network of communication between the rest of the world and Elbaph. So I think there's a very strong chance that he just doesn't move yet. I think a realistic thing is we're going to get pause from the God's Knights after this interaction's done, after this altercation's done between... Once the kids are free, basically, the God's Knights will leave, reset, and then that's when we're going to get a lot of lore drops, a lot of character discussion, probably some more Loki backstory, although I do feel like Loki's backstory is just getting peppered through. We're not going to get a Kuma-style backstory where it's just like 5 chapters of this guy's backstory. I think we're going to get panels peppered in. I think we're going to inevitably get conversation or Shanks is going to enter Elbaph at some point. And I wouldn't be shocked if there is connection between Shanks and Dragon.
Yeah.
But it does feel like there probably won't be, in which case it depends on how the God's Knights get back to Elbaph. It could be a buster call, which then would alert Dragon to the movement of the God's Knights, because the last buster call had the Gorosei.
Yeah.
So he's probably just waiting for the next buster call, and he probably knows that's going to follow Vegapunk. So he's just waiting for the island that it happens.
Does Soul have a connection with Dragon?
Yes, a great connection with Dragon. Yes, you're absolutely right.
And
there could be a private line between Dragon and Soul.
So
Robin, yes, of course.
But we don't know if Nico can contact Robin.
If
Sorry.
if Robin can contact the Revs.
Yeah.
I'm sure that it's just like something that's never been mentioned, but I'm sure Robin would have access to because they have a private line, the Revs, to contact them via transponder. It's like an encrypted transponder. I wouldn't be shocked if Robin wasn't given one because she was just on Tequila Wolf for 2 years.
Yep.
So there's a very...
Love to get into Tequila Wolf.
Especially post-flood announcement. I think, yeah, it's... I can't tell if Emus and the world government are doing it like a Sisyphus thing, like you have to just keep making this rock and it's a bridge going nowhere, or if they think that is truly the height of the next flooding.
Who knows?
And they want a trade route, a ground-based trade route, which also would make sense.
Yeah.
But Robin was on Tequila Wolf for that time. I think it's a very strong chance that we know Vegapunk has a line to the Revs and Dragon specifically. I think there's a very strong chance, you're right, about Saul having a line into the Revolutionary Army.
He'll go, what? The God's Knights are here? Oh my god, I have to let Dragon know.
Yes, because they don't know it's the...
It'll be like this. It'll just be a reference to God Knights, and then Saul will go, I have to let him know.
Or it'll be like 3 exclamation points, and then 6 chapters later, you'll just see a silhouette of Dragon, and he's like, on my way. And that will be the beginning of... If once Dragon enters the story, that is the beginning of the end of the world government.
Saul will go, we have to let him know. Ja Rule goes, I don't want him here. That's when we find out Ja Rule is evil.
That's I really like that idea, That's a really good idea.
He can't know that they're here.
Yeah, I do think.
Why?
I think we are now set up. Yeah, true. That's a really fun idea. I really like that idea. I think we're definitely setting up now for a.
Man, we're getting there. We're getting to the end of the whole thing.
I think now it's clear. Blackbeard's the big bad. Last arc, Egghead. Okay, the arc before that, Wano. It's so hard to go back and explain without going too far back. But Wano, obviously, CP0 was introduced as the real world, the real underground. Because CP9 everyone knew about, but CP0 is hidden below CP9, but is more advanced. So we get CP0, and then we get all the Cypher Poles getting kidnapped in the next arc in Egghead, which then leads to CP0 going, which then leads to Gorosei going. Now, and then we get introduced to the Holy Knights. Now we're in the next arc. Gorosei are back home. One of them's gone. The Holy Knights are now in. Mm-hmm. So we're getting introduced to the Holy Knights. I think now it's safe to say Blackbeard's the big bad, and this is probably going to be the saga. This Wano, Egghead, Elbaph, Merijua is my prediction. And we go through, and this is going to be the saga that you can go, oh, this is the beginning and the end of the world government, war.
Yeah, the structure that is the government.
Yeah, and then in that chaos afterwards is when you get Zoro versus Mihawk through Buggy going after the trying to get to Laugh Tale. You get Blackbeard trying to go after Laugh Tale. You get Shanks going after Laugh Tale. You get Luffy going after Laugh Tale. That's when I think you see the Grand Fleet come in. I don't think the Grand Fleet are going to be a big part of this arc. It could be that Hasrudin goes, hey, Grand Fleet fellas.
Oh, because he
was a part of it.
But he would still be in contact with
them. He'd be able to contact them. So he could be like, hey, come for this. And the Grand Fleet is used for this big battle. And then it's just the individual pirate crews that are used for the end game story, which will be Lodestar.
Yep.
Will probably be where the battle is held. And then Laugh Tale will be the final arc. Which,
I feel like we're at a point now where it's getting so far.
Yeah.
We probably won't see Big Mom or Kaido again. I think they're done.
I think there is a chance
There's no
for
space
Big Mom
for them anymore.
No, there's not. Kaido's gone. I think Kaido is truly dead. Maybe not dead because he can coat himself in magma, so his fruit is clearly capable of surviving it. I do feel like it is the end for him. I think Big Mom's still got some story to go in Elbaph specifically.
Yeah.
And we could see the return of Big Mom in Elbaph. She just comes in on on Prometheus.
Prometheus, that's his name.
No, that's the son's name. What's the name of the girly cloud she did?
The new one?
Yeah, the new one. The new cloud.
Can't remember.
Anyway, I could see her flying in on them into Elbaph, and then all the giants are like, all right, let's fucking handle this.
What about this? And I feel like I may have said this episode 1 or episode 2. What if, and now, tell me if you've seen the MCU hit film directed by Taika Waititi, Thor Ragnarok.
Seen it.
Nice. Have you? Leave in the comments below. What destroys Asgard?
Ragnarok.
A giant lava monster.
Yeah, called Ragnarok.
A giant sword. Surtur is his name.
Surtur.
His name's not Ragnarok.
Oh, isn't it? Ragnarok's just the event.
The event.
Okay.
Surtur is like a lava monster. Big Mum's with lava right now. What if Big Mum just appears from the ground of this massive lava monster that is like a homie, and the homie just says like, sick, there's a sword, grabs the sword, and then just dives that into Elbaph.
I could see Ragnarok being,
and that's what disperses kind of everyone has to leave,
and that's why they go to, and then they probably go to Merijua because they probably clean up Big Mum in that and end her story. I will also admit, like, the Big Mum pirates have to be part of this again with Pudding being a
Yeah.
part of the story.
Being kidnapped by Black.
But then at the same time, Pudding could be completely disconnected from those pirates for the rest of the story because she has the connection to Sanji. Sanji, I think it could be that Sanji just saves Pudding, and that's the girl that Sanji inevitably marries.
I can also see it going. They eventually just save Pudding by chance.
Yeah.
And because they're good people, and the the pirate. Oh my god, the Big Mum pirates just rock up and they go, "Oh, we've got to."
Yeah.
Here she is.
Yeah.
And they go, "Well, we're gonna kill you." And then she goes, "Oh, they saved me. You can't."
I
attack
don't
them."
think the Big Mum pirates under Katakuri are gonna try and fight Luffy.
I think some of them will be heated, but then Katakuri will be like,
Yeah, I think Katakuri's like, firstly, I can't
Oven
win.
will be heated.
Yeah, he's like, I can't. Oven's always hated. I think realistically, Katakuri coming back into the story is going to be only on the side of Luffy. I think there is a strong chance that Perospero is looking around Wano for Big Mum.
Yep.
And I think there is a chance that Big Mum will get out, Perospero will find her, save her, she enters the story in Elbaph. She could be the beginning of Ragnarok. I really like that idea, that she creates a homie that is Surta and becomes Ragnarok. Elbaph gets destroyed. The God's Knights retreat to Merijois, and the crew basically have an option. Do we want to go to Hachinosu, Lodestar, or Merijois? Hit me.
What if? So we know when a summoning circle appears, things around it also get taken in.
Yes. Do they?
Well, the chair, like when.
Oh, yes.
the Summers was on the chair,
It's not just live beings.
It's
It
not
is-
just live
it's-
beings.
Yeah.
It's things around. But what if there's like a fight happening, and someone like Usopp, or I actually don't know who else. I think what if Usopp ends up at Merijois?
Hence the name God. First person to go to Merijois.
I didn't think that, but that's good as well. Holy fuck. God Usopp is just in a fight with someone, they grab him, or he's grabs them, they do the summoning circle, and he's just gone with them.
Yeah, or like
That's
the
what
summoning
leads to-
circle gets activated by Emu or something, like however it works, we don't know. But maybe he's just in the vicinity of it, he gets sucked in. It's a rescue Usopp mission.
And that's what leads to the crew.
I will.
Sorry, I'm just checking the battery.
I really like that idea. With Usopp being the person who goes. I think there's also a very strong chance that the actual God on the crew goes.
And then it's like we have to save
Because-
Luffy.
Sadly,
That's what brings the Grand Fleet in.
to Merijois. They've got to take it. Yeah, I like
As
that a
Ruden's
lot.
there, he's like, homies,
Hey, everyone, let's go.
This
We
is-
need to go to Merijois.
everyone now.
Yeah, yeah.
The revs are already there.
And not to mention, especially as we go into the story deeper and deeper, I don't know if everyone has put this together, but every single arc without fail, Luffy is held back for a period of time. You look at Arlong Park, stuck in the water for thing. He would have finished Arlong Park about 5 minutes after putting the hat on Nami if he didn't get stuck in the water. So he always gets trapped. Wano goes to the jail, like Dressrosa. He
Sanji.
refuses to eat.
Oh my god.
Fishman Island, he's traveling with Shirahoshi and like lost in the forest with Shirahoshi. Like, you can pretty much go through every single arc and find a period of time where Luffy could have resolved the conflict and Oda chose not to let him.
Loose.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
shit.
Oda chooses to hold back Luffy, and what at this point the only way to stop Luffy from just winning every interaction straight away is to get him to not fight the guy who is the perceived bad man, aka Loki. He doesn't know any of the fire stuff's going on. He's on the ground. He doesn't know what's going on Elbaph in the Cloud Cities. So yeah, I think that's Luffy's like that's his prisoner moment this arc. I could absolutely see starting next arc at Merijois with him as a prisoner for real.
Man, what if it's Sun God and God Usopp end up there?
Both of them.
Usopp's killed.
I have thought that Usopp's got some death flags.
This is a big theory.
Yeah. This is
But-
like, yeah, we're not the first people to make this.
No, the Usopp will be the only member of the crew killed
Mm.
and gets that hero's
He
death.
wants to die a brave warrior of the sea. What is more brave than dying in a
Mary Jaw.
in a conflict against the celestial dragons? And I also think he gets given the title of God of Usopp the Truthsayer, because every lie he says becomes true. Where Nolan is the opposite, who a character he looked up to greatly. Nolan only ever spoke the truth, but everything was perceived as a lie because things changed in between the time he could prove it. Where Usopp, he lies, and then the things happen to him. So I think he is going to be called like Usopp the Truthsayer, Usopp the Truthful, something like that. It's going to be his last title. And maybe he lies on a camera, and that goes out to the world, and then everyone believes him, and that's what starts the real revolution of everyone standing up against the world government. He lies about something, but then it sparks the conflict over the world. I think I think it's going to be a very exciting next 2-3 arcs.
Man, these next couple of years are going to be tight.
Yeah, can't wait for I can't wait for our final
We just
episode in 2020 in 2035.
290.
290,
Dude,
yeah.
we said some crazy shit just then.
Yeah, no, we cooked. Hey, I
love
cherry pies. I love
hate drink. This has been the Mocktown Podcast.
Ba, 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 ba.
God damn.
Theories.
Theories. Oh, man.
Theories.